so folks can follow along with that. All right. And I mentioned this earlier to Cheryl, but this presentation is recorded so that we can share it out via newsletter later on. And I'll put a link in the chat for anybody that hasn't yet signed up. It is a new newsletter with Wayne in, but it's about physical activity. This is what our May newsletter looked like, just so you can see it. It included references to previous meetings. We had a small working group on STP criteria. You can get news about, I think Michael Kelly and Andrea Clark and some others got jaywalking abolished. Great history from Roosevelt about the parks and how that affects or is related to redlining. There was a conversation, how parks can bounce back from the pandemic, and then some of the conversation. So that's kind of what the newsletter looks like. And as well as any of the Mentimeter results we get in any meeting, we share that back out. So you can share or subscribe to the newsletter by filling it out and checking the box on parks and infrastructure. So I'll put that in the chat. So anybody that wants to do that, and then as soon as looks like everybody's hopping on, I see Tony's here. That's great because Tony's our first presenter. Tony, I'm giving you like a 5-minute heads up. We'll get started here in a second. But I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping for everybody. So if you haven't already done so, hop over to Mentimeter on your phone. You can do so by going to menti.com and then use this passcode. Alternatively, you could very easily do it by using your phone's camera and scan the QR code. And that'll take you straight to the survey question that we have on the Mentimeter. There's a couple other questions at the end of the presentation. It'll be a conversation today about community recreation. And so getting your participation there is a great way to kind of help us keep a record of that and represent that so people can maybe join the meeting, can see what's going on. But please feel free to do that now. And the icebreaker question we're asking you all about is, what type of physical activity is your favorite? And so far, kind of group walking, bicycling's got 3 votes, yoga's got 2. Nobody's playing basketball. I'm disappointed. Some weightlifting and some more probably running and gardening. So if I had my vote right now, I'd be doing basketball. I think at least that's what it would have been. Probably now with work from home, it's probably more like this, the stretching in my chair. We had a Wayne in quarterly meeting recently where we did an activity break, but because I was sharing my screen, I had to stretch in my chair. So it actually worked out really nicely. All right, so I'm going to just jump right in on our physical activity and parks and infrastructure meeting. Thank you all for joining. My name is Matt Kleinman. I'm a research assistant with Wayne In. For some of you that haven't been on these calls before, we meet as a regular working group to just kind of share and promote physical activity in parks and infrastructure. Every now and then that turns into small side projects. I'm going to go through just a quick housekeeping, referencing the kind of things we've talked about in the past and the kind of small side projects that this group has worked on. But also excited to share Tony Temple, Terri Barnes, and Leigh Krtek. Leah, if I mispronounced your name, I'm so sorry. I know we'll get it right. But they each have a presentation. I know Tony's going to have to leave us by 1 o'clock. So we're really excited to hear what they're doing in community recreation. And I just kind of want to tee up the conversation today. Recapping last month's meeting, this group meets on a monthly basis the last Wednesday of each month from 12:30 to 2. But last month is what we call a quarterly meeting. And that was kind of the first quarterly meeting we had. We had a discussion with a lot of folks from schools. And so the discussion was really about how do we increase physical activity as it relates to schools, parks, and infrastructure. And so one of those Mentimeter questions that we'll take later on kind of asked folks to prioritize. And safe routes to schools was by far the favorite preference for doing that. Safe routes to parks and shared use agreements were 2 more. But when it came to what do kids in school need more of, instead of huge, big parks that maybe their families drive to, a lot of preference was on small parks that kids can get to within walking distance. And so I think that kind of anchors this conversation. How are we working to promote those types of spaces? This meeting is also called for because that quarterly meeting is where we kind of set the agenda for the next 2. So every quarterly meeting we say, what are the next 2 meetings about? So community recreation and accessibility were first. And so we're really pleased to be joined today by folks who are experts in their community recreation spaces. We'll hear more about them from them in a second. But the next meeting will be at the end of July on accessibility. If you have any folks you knew are doing great stuff, feel free to email me, Jen, or Laura. They'll introduce themselves later so you can kind of see where they're at and what they're doing. But we're helping kind of coordinate, but it's really open to this group. If there's a great conversation or a great project you think folks should learn about, let us know. I mentioned earlier that there's small projects. This is one of those. This came from a meeting, I believe it was in April, where Alex Rotenberry from the Mid-America Regional Council talked about surface transportation programming. Thanks to a number of you all that are on this call today, there was a recommendation list of criteria that Mark could adopt to improve how roads are funded, how public transit is funded, and how bicycle pedestrian facilities are funded. And so we'll share that out in the next newsletter. I put the link in the chat earlier, but I'll do it again at the end of the meeting. But if you click the newsletter, you'll see exactly what those recommendations were. And thank you to everybody that participated in that process. Just to briefly give an intro, then I'll turn it over here to Tony in a second. So Tony, this is your cue to get ready. The way that our presentations work in these regular meetings is we just want to highlight folks on these issues and ask them about their experiences related to community recreation and physical activity. There's a way to, in the Mentimeter, ask questions. If you see the Q&A at the bottom, feel free to do that. We'll all keep track of those. Also, feel free to use the chat. But we'll turn it over to each of our speakers today for about 10 minutes. They'll share a little bit about what they're doing, about any upcoming events, how it relates to physical activity and infrastructure, and then save about 10 minutes for them to do a quick Q&A or discussion, or maybe have some run over time from what they're presenting, so that in each of them, they'll get about 20 minutes to just talk about what they're doing in community recreation related to physical activity and parks and infrastructure. So Tony is a personal trainer. We could talk a lot about what he does, but most excitingly, he's recently become an author with his daughter, and these are a couple photos I took at one of their events recently. And so we'll talk about his relationship to community recreation and all of our presenters today as it relates to the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan at the end of our meeting. But we wanted to get him on so he could give a quick introduction to who he is and what he does, so he can hop off at 1 o'clock. So I will stop sharing my screen and just let Tony take it away.
All right. Hello, guys, everyone. Matt, that was an absolute honor to be in this room with everyone. I appreciate it. My name is Tony Temple. My organization is Temple Made Fitness. And to sum up Temple Made Fitness, we are an organization. We are a general contractor to wellness. So if any organization needs anything, we can find a program to customize that to make sense with the amazing quality people that we have and organizations that we have locally. So that's what we've kind of pride ourselves on in the last 5 years. Now, with the pandemic hitting, it obviously caused a pivot for a lot of us, and it gave us an opportunity to reset and to really focus on what will sustain for health and what does the new wellness look like. And through my experience with my daughter, like I've told a lot of people, going through virtual school and just absorbing all the mental health issues that we're suffering through that time, we wanted to come up with a project where we can start with the core and families to drive this initiative, which was helping people have a resource locally, tangibly, where they can focus on mindfulness, eating, friendly eating, kid-friendly eating, and as well as movement, all in one package. And so with this kid-friendly book, not only did we want to launch it, but we wanted to launch it the right way. We felt like everyone should have an opportunity to a resource where they can use as a family to build, strengthen bonds. And so we decided to really reach out to our community and to those people that want to serve the community, want to see their money used in the right way, and give it to people that need those opportunities. So we raised money to donate these books, and we're happy to announce that we're going to be starting our first book tour with the Boys and Girls Club. So what that looks like for us, we want to donate these books, our wellness books for these kids, to give them opportunity to springboard their wellness. We are now currently developing an app that goes with it, so the book can be again the springboard, so they can have the continued education. And that's just been our main focus right now, is to make sure that we provide this one resource to to provide this try wellness. So currently, like I said, right now we're in a position to start our book tour. We want to become expansive as far as focusing just in our own city, and so we have a Spanish book too as well, which I'm really looking to get into the Hispanic community too as well, because again we find that it's a lot of underserved communities that just don't have the resources. So we just want to make sure that we start off with that. Currently, right now, like Matt said, I'm on my way to Scion Lower, where we're developing program off this animal movement, where now I feel like this can be implemented all year long and give kids and teachers and coaches the opportunity to have something hyper local, where they can serve their kids and their families. So that's kind of been our focus. We are a boots to the ground company. We love ideas, love we love when we hear amazing things, but we really want to make sure that we're serving the community, looking in the faces of these kids and these parents, and them to see what this wellness look like for them. So that's kind of what we do. That's what we've been doing for 5 years now, and that's kind of the people.
Tony, your audio cut out at just the end, but that was a great introduction. And so I just want to, touch base on some of the other things that you've done. You've done a lot working on promoting fitness out in parks and on media. I know we're looking to start a mass media sector in the KCPA plan. Can you talk a little bit about, what that experience has been like, getting people out and about, being physically active in park spaces like what you've been doing over the last few years?
Absolutely. Had an opportunity to work with Kansas City Parks and Rec. I we did a programming for I think we did 4 locations at that time. And what program looked like for us was, how do we promote wellness for people and give them understanding what movement looks like. And unfortunately, sometimes in those communities, the education is just not there, as far as how to implement it, the know-how. And sometimes you have to start from the beginning, something that is slow, something that is simple. We're teaching people just to move, whether it's in their home or in their houses, or how to use the equipment and how to have a trusted person that they can go to. And so with our program, what we found out, that it needs to be more resources as far as education for our parks and rec. There's an elder group. We had an elder group that we hosted multiple events for during our time, 2 years ago. And the biggest thing that they felt like there was just they had no voice. They had no one that they could go to for resources. And when you think about that, and you think about the Black community where they go for resources, typically it's either the church home or it's your family, and you just don't have that point of contact. And so something that we would love to introduce to Parks and Rec is finding a resources where they can go to um, as a hyper local, something that they can relate to, spaces that they are recognizing, that they trust. That is something that we have really wanted to implement, something we have implemented in the times that we've worked with. We've done events where we educated people how to work out at the parks. We have beautiful locations, so we've taught people how to work out with the environments that they have with no equipment. We introduced them to the area local nutrition spots, wellness spots that are local, where we have sponsors and vendors, and we make our events become productions essentially. Again, just creating a safe spot for people, but also introducing them to resources where they can reach out to right away and have access to. Um, And that's really it. Again, just finding ways to create movement without having to add so many resources that are not feasible for a lot of those communities, and giving them the opportunity to still have the same opportunities, giving the same opportunities to reach out to um, what they need for their what they need for their wellness. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of distracted right now. I apologize.
No, you're good, Tony. And you're too distracted, you can hang up, and I don't want you to cause an accident.
Yes.
Uh, but while I got you, just one last question, and if folks in the room have any more to follow up, um, you talked about this idea of hyperlocal. You talk about this idea of connecting resources, especially for those that maybe don't have that like basic fundamentals for community recreation. If there was if there was a dream, if there was a strategy, and I'm using the language of the KCPA plan here. If there was a strategy or a priority in your world, what would be the best way to introduce community recreation across KC? Is there something that you think we could all do better together on?
I think it absolutely. I think communication and just introducing people to each other and giving them a space and a platform, which you guys do a great job. I think that is the number one thing why I stay engaged with the plan is because all the connections and resources. I've had an opportunity to work with Terri. She's doing some amazing. I knew more. Hamilton is doing some amazing things in the community. I've never talked to Wes or met him. So I think if we set spaces and opportunities for people to talk and to bring their resources and to bring their life and their light to the table, I think that will solve a lot of things, and people will feel more attached to the plan and to their community, and they'll feel more ownership in it. So that would be my ultimate dream, is to learn about more of these incredible people, to listen to some of their ideas, to open up my resources and things that I've come across and over my years, like, hey, this is a person you need to talk to. I've worked with them for 5 years. They're vetted, they're trust. These kids are going to love them. These people are going to love them. So that would be my idea, dream, is to just meet more people in my community that are doing some amazing things.
Well, I know you were doing that the other day when I took those photos at the Cavalry Community Outreach Network event. You had food, you had vaccine distribution, you had physical activity. So you're absolutely practicing what you preach. I know we all appreciate that. Um, there's a bunch of folks in the room. I don't want to be the only one asking questions. Anybody else, while we have Tony for another 10 minutes, do y'all have any thoughts, comments, things you want to just bounce ideas off of him or about what he's doing? Feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. Not everybody all at once.
How do we access the book?
Yes,
Is there a
ma'am.
way I can bring the book to my students?
Absolutely. You can go to templemadefitness.com and just go to our shop or go to Animal Movement, or we're located on Amazon too as well. And it's the Animal Movements Wellness Workbook.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And just to follow up on that, Tony, I've seen you guys on social media. You're introducing those animal movements in person too. So it's not just a book, but you're also doing in-person stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The Animal Movements actually started as in-person programming. Again, just trying to find creative ways to get children, to get kids to just move. And we hosted an event for that. And now we not only use the book, we host an event, we do animal movements, we do a whole presentation, we have music. It's a pretty cool deal too. We have also we have T-shirts and water bottles that come along with it. And it's just, again, just having these kids relate to something where they can see wellness as fitness as fun.
Anybody else have any questions or thoughts or comments for Tony?
Tony, this is Leigh from Girls on the Run. And I would just say, I'm so glad to hear all the work that you're doing. And I think there's great opportunity. Everything you said, I keep thinking there's great opportunity. I think we're serving similar populations, similar kiddos, similar families, with some of the same messages. So I would love to connect with you and see if there's some opportunities.
Awesome.
We'll make sure.
You guys are doing great.
We'll make sure that we can connect folks via email and whatnot. If you have any requests for contact information, let me know, and I'm happy to help facilitate if you can't reach out to them. Tony, you did have a question from Allison in our chat box. Does your group charge to come out to summer camps?
Yes, we do have a call for summer camps.
Does your group charge for summer camps? Is there a fee for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just making sure I was clear. Do you know what the fee is?
It just depends on how many, and we customize all our programming. So it really just depends on how many kids, what is the length of the programming that would be required. But it's pretty customized based on what they need and what they want.
Gotcha.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Hey, Tony. Oh, sorry, Matt. Allison here with Johnson County Park and Rec. Do you guys go out to any of the like kid events at any of the races? And I know Leigh, she's out there with her group for Girls on the Run. Leigh, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Sorry. We have our kids triathlon coming up in August, and we also have an adventure race as well. And we have some vendors at those events. I didn't know, do you guys normally go to any of those events to promote your business?
We have not. We are totally interested in doing things like that. A lot of things that we've been incorporated with are events. We found out that a lot of kids sports have actually been in decline. And so it's been really hard to get kids to just move and be active. And so this has been a creative way to not only introduce sports and introduce movement to kids, but we use the animal movements almost as like an introduction or a warm up. So we've pretty much hosted events like this. We've never, and just had our own section and part of it. But those are things that we're looking to do to get our brand out there, to introduce people what we're about and what we're trying to do. So
Okay.
Anything that you guys have, will be interested.
Perfect. Your information's on your website. I've got it pulled up. So I'm going to share that with our special events coordinator, so that way she can reach out to you.
Perfect. Yes. And all the animal movements is on templemaidefitness.com/kids. And that's pretty much all our programming for animal movement.
Perfect.
Tony, I put all that stuff in the chat so people can check it out. With the last few minutes we have, I just wanted to ask, any upcoming things that you're doing? I know the summer, fall events. Is there a spot where people can find you already engaged with community recreation?
I would say we have in mid-July, we're in Independence in the KCK location for Boys and Girls Club. That is where we're going to launch our animal movement programming. We have dates which we're going to be announcing here in the next week on our social media and on our website. And so that is going to be our next run. We'll hit all 6 locations. And then obviously, as more people reach out, more organizations that feel this could be a great opportunity for their kids and their organization to have, they'll be added to our calendar and our list too.
Great. All right. Well, I'll maybe share some of that with you once the announcement goes out for everybody that wants to subscribe to the PAPI newsletter, so they can follow up directly with you. But Tony, this has been great, man. Any final thoughts about your experience with community recreation in Kansas City? Anything you want to leave us with?
Just everyone, just keep doing what you're doing. I think everyone's been doing a great job. I love this energy in Kansas City. So many things have changed in the last 5 or 6 years in wellness overall. And so I think these are the leaders, these are the people that are making that change. And I can't imagine another 5 years if we keep this momentum. So I just wish everybody light and peace and clarity to keep pushing forward and keep going. And thank you guys so much for allowing me to just share my footprint of what we're trying to do in our community. So keep it going. I love it.
All right. Well, Tony, I promised you we'd get you out by 1 o'clock. So thanks for hopping on your drive, and we really do appreciate you sharing what you're doing.
No problem. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Well, as Tony drops off, he'll get a chance to review the rest of this because we're recording, and I'm keep taking notes. But now I get to turn it over to Jen and Terry for our next presentation on community recreation and what's going on in KC. And Terry, I have your slides, so I will see if I can let you share them. But if for whatever reason that doesn't work, I am more than happy to share them for you, and you can just tell me next slide. So give me a second to see. It says everyone can present, so there's a button with a arrow pointing up. When you're ready, you can share your content. But if it doesn't work, let me know.
I don't see, oh, I do see it. I see it.
All
And
right.
Yeah, feel free to do an introduction, Jen, too.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to keep it really short. So I'm Jen Jutt from Kansas City, Missouri Parks and Recreation. And I was introduced to Terri Barnes from Black Women Get Fit probably a month or so ago. We partner with Black Women Get Fit to do a program at Swope Park and Southeast Community Center. So we've asked Terri to come and share her program. And so I'm seeing myself on the screen. I'm not exactly liking that a lot, but we'll go ahead and turn it over to Terri so she can talk about her program, her community recreation, and then we'll keep the discussion going.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but your screen is sharing your Teams window and not your PowerPoint slides.
Matt, can you control that for me? Can you do that for me? 'Cause
I'll be happy to.
Thank you. So good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Terri Barnes, and I am the founder and president of the NIA Project. And Black Women Get Fit is our signature program for the NIA Project. And to be honest with you, Black Women Get Fit came about by accident. I was on a walk with a good friend of mine in 2018 who was a part of a national organization called Girl Track. And Girl Track is an organization trying to get 1 million Black women walking and healthy by 2020. And they did meet that goal. And the person I was walking with told me that the founders of Girl Track would be coming to Kansas City to try to promote Girl Track and to get women to participate. And I said, well, we can't let them come to Kansas City and not have women show up. I've never heard of it. I don't hear anybody talking about it. You know, we've got to do something to raise awareness so that folks will show up. And before the walk was over, we came up with this idea to do a health and fitness day. It would be set up like a pub crawl. We were going to do it down on 18th and Vine. We were going to invite women that we knew who were already doing fitness. We were going to invite them to come out and do a demonstration session. And we thought this would be great. We'd be supporting Black-owned businesses. You know, who doesn't support health and fitness is going to be great. And we're going to have all these women there, and then we're going to get their names and email addresses. So when Girl Track comes to Kansas City, we can invite them all to come and see Girl Track. And so we did it. We put it together. We self-funded the whole thing. We did it through Eventbrite. And we reached out to people that we knew, and they all said yes. You all are probably familiar with Nikki Jones with Nikki Fit, and Estelle Brooks with Fit for You is for You. Yamina Muhammad with African Dance. We went to the Greg Kleiss Community Center, and Lisa, I can't think of her last name this moment, but Lisa was our instructor. She did swimming. So we just reached out to people that we knew who were already doing fitness and asked them if they would participate in this event. They all said yes. We had over 200 women sign up, and it was incredible. We had line dancing. We partnered with Bike Walk Kansas City and we had 10 bicycles. We had women riding all over 18th and Vine, and it was an incredible event. So the event came and went, and we were happy with ourselves. And then we found out that Girl Track canceled their visit to Kansas City. They decided that they were not going to come to Kansas City. And we started getting feedback from women who had attended this event saying, well, when are you all going to do this again? That was great. You know, I didn't know that Greg Cleiss had a swimming pool. I'd never been on 18th and Vine. I didn't know that there were that many Black women that rode bicycles. And so we were just floored by the response and the reception. And so we didn't immediately decide we're going to do this every year. To be honest with you, we thought it would take a lot more work to build it and to create all of the things around it that would make it a successful event. But very long story short, we've done it every year since 2018. The number keeps getting bigger. Last year, we were in COVID, so we could not do it inside, and we decided that we were going to do it outside at Swope Park. And as we got closer to the date, we ended up canceling the event because the pandemic continued to be a challenge for us. And so we took it online. And to be honest with you, we did not expect to have the same participation because we thought, well, who wants to watch yoga online? Who wants to watch Tai Chi online? And we ended up having over 1,800 people over a 2-day period watch the videos. We connected with 20 cities, 4 countries, and we were just outdone. And so we decided we are going to do this, not if we're going to do this, we are going to do this. And so we started a nonprofit called the NIA Project. And the NIA Project is the 501c3, which houses now what we know is our signature program, Black Women Get Fit. And so here we are 4 years later, October 2nd, 2021. We have partnered with Kansas City Park and Recs. We will have that event out in Swope Park in the South and the Southeast Community Center. And since May, we have been doing what we call our ramp up events, where we ramp up. We have an event every month that highlight one of our instructors. We introduce women to areas of town that they may not have known about or be familiar with. So in May, it was Bicycle Month. So we had a bike meetup at Rock Island Trail. And just this past week, we were at Brookside at the Trolley Trail. We partnered with Black Girls Run and Girl Track. And in the month of July, we're going to do a faith-based event. We're actually going to be doing prayer for our community, some of the challenges that are happening in the urban core. We're going to pull the community together for that purpose. And we believe September will be swimming. And then, of course, our inaugural event is October 2nd. And that is the quick and dirty of Black Women Get Fit, kind of how it came about and what we do. And I can see that I have not moved this slide. So Matt, do you want to just flip through the pages? Sure. So that if you want to go all the way to the bottom where the photos are, and there you go, just to give them an overview of that's our African dance is on the right with Yamina Muhammad, and this is yoga. And we were really just amazed at the number of women who are already in community doing this work, and also the number of women who came out to participate in it. And I think what we've learned is women are really busy. Tony said something that really resonated with me. It is really an awareness issue. Women are busy raising their family and their children. They don't necessarily have time to explore and think about what's out there for them. But what we've learned is when we plan it, if we can market it, if we can get in their email boxes, they will come. And we really, really have had a good time with it, making connections and collaborations across the community. That's our Tai Chi instructor, and I have to say she's 70 years old. Incredible. Carolyn White is her name.
Awesome. So Terri, as Matt scrolled through some of those photos, you hit a lot of the questions that I was gonna ask, but I guess one of the big ones would be, how can people engage with your projects?
Yeah, I would encourage people to go to our at this point, we have a Facebook page, Black Women Get Fit. And we also, of course, have a website, blackwomengetfit.com. And just stay plugged in with us and find out when things are going on. We hope to build the Black Women Get Fit brand. One of the things that we're doing now is we are wanting to develop a quality of life survey for Black women in Kansas City specifically. We know that there's lots of national numbers and a lot of information out there, but we really want to know what the women in Kansas City are looking for, because through the feedback surveys that we provided them, we've learned an incredible amount of information about what they want, what kind of time they have, where they feel like they need support. So it's really a huge opportunity to build something that really goes directly to a demographic that has been challenged. Black women in our community are under-resourced, they're underemployed. We have lots of healthcare issues, and we want people that we know we can trust, that have a reputation, and oftentimes it just takes community to connect all the parts. But we've been really pleased by what we've been able to do to date.
Great. Like I said, you hit a lot of the questions that I had lined up. So I'm going to open it to the group for a couple minutes. And please don't all speak at once. But if you have questions for Terri, feel free to unmute and ask away.
Terri, I'll just ask one to get you started. Same question I asked Tony. If there was a strategy or a priority that you feel like the city could get behind to support the community recreation work that you're doing, what would help? What would do the most good?
Yeah, I think my answer is similar to Tony's. We were really floored at how little women knew about all the resources that are available here in Kansas City. So I would say an awareness campaign of not only the community centers that are located throughout our community, but an awareness campaign of the instructors. That we have so many certified instructors. Whether you are interested in yoga or swimming, there are so many people that do that either free, or there are some that have small fees. I don't think we could ever miss by communicating, raising awareness, and making sure that folks in our community know how to get to the resources that they need. It's funny, something that I've been thinking about. Lately there's been a really big promotion around Black businesses and how can you support Black businesses, but there really is not the same push around Black nonprofit organizations. And so there are a lot of folks that offer these services free of charge in our community, but there's very little awareness, and typically smaller nonprofits don't have the budget to get on TV or get on radio or put an ad in the newspaper. So this organization really has an opportunity to just simply raise awareness and let the community know what resources are out there that they can access.
That's great. I know Jen said she might have technical difficulties, but does anybody else have any questions for Terri?
I do. Hi, this is Alex Rotenberry. I'm a transportation planner at the Mid-America Regional Council. And first off, I'd like to say that your presentation was fantastic. And I think that's a segment of the population that we certainly wish that we could have more interactions with. That being said, one of the things that we produce here at MARC are trail and bicycle maps. Is that something, this is for our 8-county region, although, as we get further out into the kind of more rural areas, there's fewer and fewer of those to be found. So it's sometimes we make do. But my question to you is that something that you think would the people that you serve would find of interest having, and if so, how many do you want?
It's funny, biking, and this was a conversation we had with Bike Walk Kansas City a few years ago. We were so overwhelmed that there was such interest in biking. We have since learned that biking is a very expensive exercise. $300 to $400 for a bicycle. It's very expensive. So being able to partner with Bike Walk Kansas City has been incredible for us. But to your point, we went out to Rock Island Trail. Not a single person that attended knew that existed. And everybody talked about its ongoing development and how pretty soon it's going to connect to another state, I think they said. So there's a very much an interest in it, but we want to do it in community. What we have found is that women want to do things in groups. They may not do it individually, but if you organize it, you plan it, you make a way for people to do it, I think that you would absolutely find that women are interested in being adventurous and going out into the trails. And personally, I would love to make an additional tie to those trails and bring in the nature elements and the benefit of health. So I think that there are absolutely some value in sharing those, and I'd be happy to take those and share them and think about those as we have our events.
I would love to give them to you. We print off 20,000 of those suckers every year, or every other year, excuse me. We produced the 2020 maps, and we'll be working on producing a 2022 map starting this fall. And they're not doing me any good sitting in our storage bins, downstairs. In the hands of people being used. I thought in this time and this day and age that paper maps were going to go extinct, but far from it. They're actually very, very popular. And so, I would be very happy to, give as many as you want. They come in boxes of 240, and I'd be happy to talk to you offline about seeing how I can get those into your hands so you can get them into other people's hands moving forward. But I just love what you guys are doing, and would love to support you in any small way that I can.
That would be great. I can think of having those in our swag bags in our event in October, when we are expecting over 400 women to show up, to be able to drop one of those in all of the swag bags. And again, as we plan these monthly events, Rock Island Trail was our first, but I would love to explore some of the others.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Terri, you've already done such a wonderful job promoting the October event, but you mentioned that you're doing monthly events. So do you have any other monthly events lined up that you haven't shared with us yet?
Yeah, so we are doing ramp up events to take us until October. So we really we don't have anything planned after October, but the goal is to really create something year round, so that what we continue to hear is, October is fantastic. Everybody's hyped up. They're meeting people. The network is off the charts, and then it goes away. So we really have to think of a way to create something that keeps these women connected year round. And so that's really, as an organization, that's what our next charge is. How do we identify the women who want to be a part of this network, and what do we do every month that can really tie back to health and fitness? It could be blood pressure checks, it could be mental health checks, it could be walking X amount per month. But we want to create these initiatives every month, and if you do one of them, you get this. If you do 5 of them, you get that, because we really want to get to the core of health and wellness. And so the next opportunity for us is to take this annual event, and how do we really make it a lifestyle for the women who are attending.
I'm sorry, Terri, I'm sorry, I got on late, but what is the name of your organization?
The NIA Project is the name of the organization, and Black Women Get Fit is the event. Yes. It's the signature event that we host every year.
Keisha, do you have I'm replying to your question about the sharing the presentation. Yes, it will be shared, and you can find it in the newsletter that I'll put out. We also save them on YouTube, so if you want a direct link, just let me know. But Keisha, she mentioned earlier the role of conservation and green space partners. Do you have any thoughts about that as it relates to community recreation and the kind of work that Terri's putting together?
Oh my God, yes. I think that, with our work, with our organization, and so for most, I'm True Keisha Smith, and I work here at Bridging the Gap, and we are the environmental organization, one of the environmental organizations in Kansas City. Most of our work revolves around planting trees. We are restoring land, prairies, and things like that. We are managing our green infrastructure projects. So some of the BMPs that you see around Kansas City, we are actively out there. And so what it dawns on me is that conservation work is really good work. When I first got here, I was just out there planting trees, and I'm like, oh, this is actually a workout. So it's a workout on top of a learning experience. And it is a great way to be physical. Honeysuckle, so I have not done honeysuckle removal yet. Laura is laughing because honeysuckle removal is extremely difficult. However, it is also one of those things when you get out there, you're going to be active, you're going to get a lot of steps in, but you're also going to be learning a lot. And so there is a lot to learn. We are looking at how we can engage. Just a Black woman myself, we are looking at how do we engage Black women into these activities. I am a part of Black Women Run, Black Girls Run.
Black Girls Run. We just partnered with you all on Saturday.
Yes, and I did not make it, but I have seen all of the pictures.
Yeah, it was. I would love to talk to you offline. I'm sure that you've heard of something called earthing.
No.
No, so I was just in, and I won't hold this, but I was just introduced to something called earthing, and it's a natural way to connect the body to the earth. And we just recently, we were looking for a place to have an event in nature, and we're going to end up being at a park, but we were looking at an area in town called Clement Waters, which we weren't familiar with. But again, I would love to talk to you offline and know what some of the resources are and some of the locations that can get us out into the nature.
And we can get you, we have some prairies. So Linda Larabaum is our KC Wildlands program manager, and she is out there restoring prairies. And so you actually make me think of Swope, Rocky Point Glades. Would also be a good place to do an event like that. But there are definitely ways in which we can connect individuals to the earth, the environment, learning about it, understanding it more, embracing it more, but also being physically active, because everything we do.
Yes.
There's not one thing we do.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you then offline. That'd be great.
Well, that is the purpose of our meetings, to do conversations like this. So I'm glad we got it started. But yeah, like let everybody know, and we're happy to cross promote with everybody that's on the call and the different networks. And Terry, that's the last question that came through in the chat, and I'll just repeat it briefly so you can answer maybe. But what's the most effective way to get the word out? And are there challenges in reaching folks at different life stages, whether that's elderly, working moms, teen girls? Because what y'all are talking about is so incredible. But how do you communicate it? What's worked best for you?
You know what? It has all totally been organic, because we just started. We don't have a bunch of money. We don't have a lot of grants. So it's all been organic. It's been word of mouth. And the thing that has really worked for us is we are Black Women Get Fit. We don't offer any services ourselves. We are the connector. So we are reaching out to women who are already doing this work. Those women already have their own networks. And so when we're pulling them together, as Keisha just talked about, Black Girls Run, they already have a whole host of women that they work with through their organization. So we are actually pulling these different women together. They're bringing their women to the table, and then they're telling other women. So we've been really lucky in that our marketing has really been Facebook and word of mouth. But it certainly will continue to be an opportunity, because we really want to get to 3rd District and 5th District, where these women we know don't have access to some of the resources that a lot of us take for granted. That's really what we want to do.
Well, Terry, really quickly, we should talk. So I actually live in 3rd District and very active in 3rd District as well as 5th District. So we could definitely talk about that as well. And Matt, to your point, I think, at least in Black Girls Run, and I'm in a walking, so there's Black women, there's a Black women's walking group around Kansas City as well, too.
That's Girl Track.
Yes, Girl Track. So I'm in it as well. And so both of them, for the most part, they actually have a lot of different demographics in both of them, because they're national organizations, and you just kind of sign up to be a part of them. And you see them across Kansas City. There are lots of different groups. There are several groups as well in Kansas, in the Wyandotte area. So the demographic looks like a lot of different people. You see young girls, you see young ladies with their moms walking, you see moms out there. But those national groups have been able to cater to a lot of different audiences that oftentimes may get overlooked.
That's great. Well, it's a perfect segue too, because Terry, thank you so much for sharing everything, and Keisha, thanks for jumping on and making it even a stronger conversation. So, Terry, do you have any parting thoughts? Because I think we're going to talk to another Girls Run organization here in just a second. But anything you would want to leave with us?
No, I just love this opportunity, and I think the key is just raising awareness and making sure we all know about each other and how we can support one another.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us, Terri. And if everybody that's joined a little late, we're going to have a quick little poll at the end. So feel free to stick on, because I think the conversation that we just had is a great touch point for what this group can kind of give some feedback on by the end of the meeting. But Laura, Leigh, feel free to take it away.
Yeah, so hi, everybody. My name is Laura Steele. I'm the Director of Education at Bike Walk KC. I co-lead the infrastructure sector work group of the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan, and also, I guess, tri-lead this work group with Jen and Matt. And so I am going to introduce Leigh Krtek from Girls on the Run. It's local nonprofit organization dedicated to creating a world where every girl knows and activates her limitless potential and is free to boldly pursue her dreams.
That was beautiful, Laura. And Terri and Keisha, I want to get together with you because I want all of the women that you are working with to be role models for the girls that we are coaching. So there's bazillions of opportunities, I think, for all of us to work together. Let's see if I can share my slide here, or my presentation here. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that.
We can see it.
First, I just want to say thank you for the invitation to share more about Girls on the Run. All of you are clearly advocates for physical activity in our community, and I'm just thrilled to give you more information to take to all of your personal communities and partner together. So the most important message that I want to share with you today is that Girls on the Run is so much more than running. We're a physical activity-based youth development program. Our program is designed to enhance girls' social, psychological, and physical skills. And at the same time, we're teaching behaviors so they can successfully navigate this crazy thing we call life. And after the wild year that we've had, I don't have to tell you that girls in our community need this type of empowerment and support and this type of skill development. So our goal at Girls on the Run, we've always had the goal of and the drive to be make transformative and sustain change in the lives of 3rd through 8th grade girls. So that's our demographic that we're working with. And over the course of the program, the physical activity serves as a platform to teach these life skills to these girls. And our goal is to promote holistic health outcomes in the girls that we're serving. We are also one of the only physical activity-based positive youth development programs with truly compelling evidence that participants do learn life skills and then use them in other areas of their life. We have a research-based curriculum, we have trained coaches, and a commitment to serve all girls, and that's what sets us apart. We will scholarship about half of the girls that participate in our program, so we are here to serve all in Kansas City. And what many people don't know is Girls on the Run is a national organization with a network of 186 councils throughout the United States. We started with 13 girls in 1996 in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we like to say that we're a national force for good, with over 1.8 million girls have participated in our program over 25 years, over a 25-year history. Nationally, we serve about 200,000 girls annually, and we do that with 100,000 volunteers. So it's a team effort of volunteers coming together. Now in Kansas City, we started in 2007, so we're almost 15 years old, and right now we serve 18 counties in the Kansas City metro. We host our season or our program 2 times a year, so we'll have a season in September that starts. September to November is fall. And then our spring season is March to May. Our largest season was just before the pandemic, spring 2020, March 13th, when the world ended. We came to an abrupt end we were serving just over 3,000 girls in Kansas City and at 184 different schools. And we have a team that stayed intact, which is just such a blessing for a nonprofit, for us to be able to stick together. Grateful for our board that make that happen. And we'll get back to those numbers in time. So our curriculum, again, is something that really sets us apart. It's a research-based curriculum, research in elementary education, social emotional learning, and positive youth development. So over the course of 8 weeks, small teams get together, 8 to 30 girls, depending on the school, depending on the interest. They meet 2 times a week. And then each lesson is about 75 to 90 minutes in length. And the curriculum that we use for our elementary school girls, 3rd through 5th graders, is called Girls on the Run. And what I say is Girls on the Run on steroids is heart and soul, and that serves our 6th through 8th graders. The girls meet in schools, they meet in community centers, they meet in parks. And 2, I would say, of the big highlights of our program, the girls do a community impact project, and they participate in an end of season 5K. And I think those are really huge highlights for the girls. The community impact project really is an opportunity to show the girls that they have power and potential to make a difference, and a difference in their very own community. So every team creates and executes a local community service project. And the experience really just demonstrates to the girls the unimaginable strength that they have that comes from helping other people. And so that is always a highlight. And then at the end of the season, we host a 5K. And that is really just a time for the girls to feel a tangible sense of achievement. And it's just a framework for setting and achieving life goals for the girls. And they realize how amazing it feels to cross the finish line. And they just realize all that they've worked for throughout the season, that they can do anything that they set their mind to. So throughout the curriculum, the lessons focus on the following 6 areas: confidence, caring and empathy for others. Girls learn about respecting themselves and others. They build connections with their coaches, with their teammates, competence in their social, emotional, and physical skills, and then contributing to the community. We also like to focus on some life skills that can transfer into other domains and contexts like home and school and friends. So they're learning about managing emotions, resolving conflict, helping others, making intentional decisions. And they're learning all of that through game, activity, and play with their coaches. So over the years, we've had hundreds of letters from girls and parents and school personnel, coaches, regarding how the lessons taught at Girls on the Run really does change lives. And it is why I love my job, because we do get such positive feedback really daily. But Girls on the Run International honored that really anecdotal stories and quotes from participants, yes, are beautiful, but we really needed true evidence of our impact. So they did an independent study and evaluated the impact of Girls on the Run just about 5 years ago. And I think the results are worth sharing. So the study specifically looked at whether Girls on the Run participants differ from a comparison group of girls that did not participate, and really looked at some of the developmental outcomes. And the study evaluated whether the participants showed improvement from the beginning of the season to the end in all of those developmental outcomes, and then also if they retained that after they left Girls on the Run. And the findings were remarkable, and I just want to share just a few of the highlights with you. So The study found that girls made the greatest gains in their connection and in their confidence. And I think as an adult, like if I could have that in 8 weeks, that is a beautiful thing as well. So over the course of the program, they were able to articulate that they improved in how much they liked the kind of person that they are, how happy they felt with the way they looked, and they were more likely to say that they have classmates who like them the way they are, those are some beautiful results. Also, we're proud to share that the girls who were the least active at the start of the season, who really didn't have much physical activity in their life, their physical activity improved by 40% from pre-season to postseason. And then they continued that after the season had ended, which is a wonderful thing. And lastly, another beautiful result, an incredible 97% of girls were able to express learning critical life skills like managing emotions, resolving conflict, helping others, making intentional decisions. And they were able to share examples of how they transferred that to their home, to their school, and to their friends. So just amazing results out of that survey. And then I guess in closing, at an age where girls are constantly trying to measure up to the ideas of who they should be, with all of the social media pressure they're taking in, they're still really discovering who they are. So Girls on the Run shows them that their potential isn't just enormous, but it is beyond measure. So if you would like to make an impact that is beyond measure, we would love your help. I guess actions that you could take would be to share with people in your community about our organization, to share with Black Women Get Fit, and to share with Black Girls Run about this opportunity to be a role model and help serve your community, be a role model to young girls, inspiring people to start a team, maybe coaching. I promise coaching is a very, very rewarding experience. Volunteering in other capacities. Our 5K also at Swope Park will be on November 6th. This past year we had to pivot and do individual site-based 5Ks for all of our teams. We're excited to be back together at Swope on November 6th. We have a program called Soulmates, which is an opportunity to fundraise for us by completing an athletic event with all of the athletes that you are connected to. And then I just listed on this slide our website. I've listed my email address and just would love to connect with so many of you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you and answer any questions.
I have just a few. I wondered about capping it at 30.
We have some teams that are much bigger. Typically and there's just a few. Not all coaches want to take on a team that's bigger than 30 girls. Long ago, when I was a volunteer and was coaching, we had a team of 58 at the school that I was coaching on, and it was just the energy of 58 third through fifth grade girls is quite spectacular. But it takes a team of volunteers to say yes, and that, we want to take on a big team like that.
The other question I had was the 75 to 90-minute lessons. I know a lot of our kiddos have activities they're rushing off to.
Yes, that is a good question. We typically ask coaches when they are creating a schedule for their practices that they pick days and times that work well in their school. We really feel like the girls need the full 75 to 90 minutes because a good portion of it is team building and working together and building that connection. So we like girls to pick teams where they can be there the full 75 to 90 minutes. One beautiful thing that happened out of COVID is we did have more community sites. We had a team at Children's Mercy Hospital, which was a beautiful partnership. The girls worked in the community garden as their community impact project. Miriam Marketplace is another one. Shawnee Mission Park is another. So hopefully families can find a team that works well with their schedule. We also implemented a camp program, and that's a weekend opportunity where it's Saturday mornings for 4 hours for 5 Saturdays. We're going to do that in the month of October. Our most centrally located one is Westwood Park off the plaza. So for kiddos that are really busy, that can't do the weeknight option, a Saturday morning is also an option as well.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Leigh, I'm interested in the opportunity for communities, partner sites. How do those get initiated? You know, it seems like there's a pretty good approach working within schools and finding a lot of volunteers there. So how does that work outside that structure?
Yeah, that's a good question. We were really forced to really make that type of format that you just mentioned, Laura. We had to make that work because schools were not letting us use their facilities. Understandably, for safety was their priority. So we actually get a lot of. We are also kind of grow organically. People hear about us. They're inspired by our mission. Maybe 20% of our coaches are our community members that don't have any connection to a school. So it's really, once we have a group of community members that say, yes, we want to coach, then it's finding space. And so parks were a great option for us because we were able to let's make that work as a team, get a group of community members together. The community members decide on days and times that work for them. And then we work backwards to market to schools that are nearby that would maybe have kiddos that would be interested in participating. We would love to have more opportunities like that. So it's dialogue, really. We have lots of volunteers and it's dialogue to find the right space that we can use.
So what happens after a young lady finishes the program? Like, do they stay? I don't think I post.
Yeah, good. No, that's a super good question. The season is 8 weeks. The beautiful thing about the curriculum that we have, say for Girls on the Run, there are 3 different curriculums. So what we do is rotate those curriculums, and we invite girls to be a part of it season after season. And each season, then they get a little bit of a different curriculum that has different games, different activities, still building on what they learned in their first season. And we often have girls who, if they've gone through 3 seasons, they've experienced all 3 curriculums. If they have cycled back to the first curriculum again, it's a year and a half later, they're in a different space, they have a different maturity level, they're going to experience a little bit different. So we welcome season after season.
Leigh, I'll ask you the same question I asked our other 2 presenters earlier in the meeting. If there was a strategy or priority from your perspective on community recreation, what would be something that all of Kansas City could work a little bit better towards on increasing physical activity?
I hate to be repetitive, but I'm going to totally agree with both Terri and Tony. I think working together, I see so many opportunities for us working with girls. We want the girls to have adults in their life that also have the same love of wellness and fitness. So, Terri, the women that you're working with, or the opportunities that you have for adults, if we could give that opportunity to the guardians of the girls that we're working with, looking at Alex, the maps that you were talking about, for us to be able to look at each team that we have to be able to give them a trail map of what's closest to their school so they build that into their daily life. That would be a beautiful opportunity. I think more conversations like this, partnership, working together, so we all know what resources are here for us.
I know.
Shoot me an email and I'll get those. We'll figure out something to get those maps to you too.
Okay.
So this has been a great conversation, and I really don't want to end it short, but I do want to get to one last discussion point that kind of tries to pull the threads together on what we've been talking about today. And of course, this meeting will be recorded and shared in the newsletter, and I'll leave a link to that at the end. But part of the reason why we really wanted to have this discussion, in addition to the fact that everybody that attended the meeting last time said community recreation was high on their to-do list, is because when the KCPA plan was formed, and I'm trying to share my screen, so give me a second. When the KCPA plan was formed, and this is Tony's slide, and this was my placeholder for Terry and Leigh. But when we formed the KCPA plan, over, gosh, a year ago, it started organizing, and it was part of the challenge was trying to translate what was evidence-based into what would be something that Kansas City could build and get behind. And the national plan was kind of the model for that first effort. And so for many of you that are on this call, some of you participated, some of you, this might be your first time hearing it. So the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan really tried to bring people together almost entirely over Zoom, and we only had a few meetings to do it in. But to translate what the national plan called for to what could work locally. And so I'll share a link in the chat, but if you go to the KCPA plan, there is a sector, as they're known, called Parks and Recreation. And it was meant to sort of be a broad, accessible place. But one of the things that I think got lost in the translation, and I think, you know, it's something that part of why we wanted to meet today is, where does community recreation fit in? Where can the work of all these organizations and people that have participated and are trying to increase rates of physical activity because we know it impacts everyone's lives, where does the conversation today fit in? And so we wanted to let that be a question for you all to answer with a Menti. So if you go to the Menti page, you go to menti.com and enter the code at the top of the screen. I'll also put it in the chat. Some of you might have pulled it up earlier in our meeting. But if you go to that, there's a simple question that gets us started, which is, how can we best support community recreation efforts? Now, one person already took the survey. That's why you see it ranked. But as more of you all take this, those numbers should change. So don't, pick what you think is most important, not necessarily what you see on the screen. And so a couple of options might be to better connect community recreation partners together with parks and infrastructure partners. I think that's what we've done today in our meeting, but we could do more of that through the KCPA plan. How do you coordinate with community recreation partners on funding opportunities, right? So grants are always kind of out there. That could be an opportunity for the KCPA plan to be, more directly involved in. How do we cross promote the community rec events? The ones that we were hearing earlier today talked about. Is a great example. And then, and now see somebody's results are starting to pop in. So we're starting to see some changes in the prioritization here. Do we define community recreation explicitly in the KCPA plan? I think that the KCPA plan is meant to be a living document. So that could be something that is able to kind of be a baseline that, how we do that isn't decided here, but if that's a priority. And so as more people are filling this out, I'm really interested to see what y'all think. And it looks like there's a growing consensus among the 6 people that have taken the survey, and I'll leave this up for a while. But I really want y'all to just think through how we might better connect community recreation partners together with parks and infrastructure partners, because in a second here, that's going to be the next question. Based on the top priority, how can this group help connect community recreation partners together with parks and infrastructure partners? And so I'll jump to the next Minty question, but feel free to type it in the chat, to use your phone, use the chat, or just unmute yourself. But how can this group help to connect community recreation partners to parks and infrastructure partners? If that's the best use of this group's energy, how can we best do that? And I know I've been hearing that throughout today's meeting, but I'm curious if anybody has some very actionable things that we can do. And feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like as well. Keisha had a great question. How many people actually understand community recreation? That is a great point. And I think that's one of the challenges that we had even in defining the KCPA plan. Parks and recreation infrastructure. These are terms that folks who are familiar with them might know and others might not. Keisha, I'm curious what the prompt is there. Is it that it needs better awareness? Or is there a better definition or education on it? Or is it that the term is too opaque and it needs to change?
So I actually think it's all of that, Matt. Like my challenge is like just with recreation in general. And I think Terry alluded to this a little earlier, just in realistically, especially like in the Black community, I wonder, like when you think about recreation, I can't speak for everybody, but I know for myself that just wasn't something that was communicated about, although I was in cheerleading and I was actively engaged, right? And that was promoted in my home. It wasn't promoted in a way in which it was like every day, getting outside. And that's kind of what I think of when I think of community recreation. And so do people really know what that term means? Do people really understand how to like engage in it? Because that's that word is specific to an audience, right? It's a specific audience that will like grab hold of that. And so I guess I'm like, how do you build, like if in fact you have all of these partners on the call and we all want to be engaged, how do we make sure that we're getting the information to the people that it sounds like some people actually do struggle with getting to it? That makes sense.
It does. I know this isn't an answer directly, but I know that part of the KCPA plan includes a different sector where this one's really on parks and infrastructure and physical activity. There's another sector that's starting up shortly on mass media. And part of that is dedicated towards how do we communicate these types of questions and hopefully draws from folks who make it their living to be on social media, to make it, in print media and radio. That doesn't answer your question though. But there's an awareness that is a huge component that could benefit this conversation. I just don't think they're at the same level yet, but that's something that can be raised with them. It's like, yeah, how do we communicate?
So can I push back? And they actually should have somebody on each committee who does social media. So it becomes reactive, right? So when you think about community engagement and how this committee will actively get the information out, and how this committee will support the resources, again, to get to their audiences. How, if the social media team isn't involved, well, then it becomes like a lost cause somewhat, and it becomes a lot more challenging to engage the audiences that you're trying to get to.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I know last month's meeting for this group was with school partners just to have a conversation about schools and parks and trails. But your point's well taken that social media probably, media in general probably needs to be embedded at some level across many, if not all the sectors, because that communication aspect is key. Anybody else have any thoughts? I know there was, go ahead.
Yeah. I think someone might have actually just put this on the question or the answer board, but the thing that keeps coming to my mind, and this probably, I worked in student life for a while during undergrad on staff, and so a lot of what my job was to connect people to different resources on campus. And one thing I found is, having gone through all the training, and I think y'all probably have similar experiences as being the people who are involved in the work, you're aware of all the partners, but obviously the people that we're like working with aren't. And so I found that there were so many resources on campus. It wasn't that necessarily there weren't enough resources. People just, again, didn't know about them. And is there some way to translate some of the, like, I almost think about like in college when you like or come to school, there's like an orientation with an activities fair, and there's like people that like kind of like a physical gathering of like, here's all the things you can be involved in, having that be part of community programming, but then also I think someone mentioned this, having an online resource where maybe the KCPA can take on a role of having that database or like a community accessible place of almost like a flow chart of like, what are you looking for? And here are the partners that do this, or here's the funding opportunities that do this, or here's the kind of community programs that you could get involved in with kind of X, Y, or Z. So maybe that's like a tool that either KCPA or maybe someone who's involved with KCPA could have a tangible thing that the community can go on and say, oh, here's a menu of all the options for the different types of activities or that sort of thing. And maybe that exists and I just also don't know about it either. But and I think again, for some of the maybe groups that don't have the funding to do big social media campaigns or don't have the opportunities for that, that might be a good middle ground of getting their platform out there too.
A great suggestion, and I really appreciate it for those of you that were participating on the Minty chat and Haley for picking that up. I know just as a reference point, we did something similar. Emily Meisen-Sebelius, who formerly was with Wayne In, kind of brought from the Healthy Schools group to infrastructure the need for that for Bike Month in May with all the events that were going on. And so I quickly just took the list that the working group had collated the resources. They said, here are the things that need to go up. And it went up on the website as part of the KCPA plan, just to kind of be a launch pad to the other organizations. I think that's one way to do it. I hear Keisha in the back of my ear going, but then how do people find the KCPA plan website? And so like there's a lot of good discussion happening, and I'm curious what other people think. Brad asked, what does community rec mean to different ages and cultures too? That's a good question. Sorry, Terry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I struggle with this even as I think about growing Black women get fit. But one of the things that we just don't have is you don't have an owner. And I think that's what we're talking about. You know, when you think of something like this, where would you go to look? And I keep going back to the health department. It seems to me that the health department should be the keeper of all things health related. That might not be the right answer, but there needs to be somebody somewhere who is the keeper. If I want to do kickball, I should be able to go Google kickball Kansas City, and there should be a list of all the associations or informal or formal professional groups, non-professional groups of kickball. The other thing that I think of, and these things don't tie together, I'm just thinking, the other thing that I think of is Kansas City Business Journal. Every year they put out that book of lists. And if someone, could keep up with kind of the top 50 recreational, professional, non-professional, and make sure that those are made available. And, it's a lot of work. It's going to cost. Somebody has to do all the legwork and get all of that information. But I think that's that big opportunity.
These are great comments. I just know because we have one of the public health department employees on the call, I'm gonna put him on the spot. Blake, you have any thoughts? Does the health department have any insight into this? And Blake, you're for those who don't know, is with the Wyandotte County Health Department.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with the fact that it kind of sits with the health department. I think that I know at the UG and Wyandotte County, at least, we're trying to get better at interdepartmental relationships. So part of that would also be like our livable neighborhoods and some other pieces that would be able to help coordinate those types of community resources. But I think kind of my position is unique at the health department. I work with a couple community coalitions, and one of them is our infrastructure action team. And one of the purposes is to reduce chronic disease through physical activity. And increasing those opportunities. So I think that would fit in, at least for our health department, but kind of as I think thinking about it, I mean, it is a lot of legwork and it's a lot of work to keep those lists up to date. But I think that that is something that I think we could figure out how to do. And I think we already have some other departments within our government that are working closely with neighborhoods and other organizations that could help put that list together. But I think having the health department be the place where that kind of stuff lives, that makes sense to me at least.
I saw Allison added something in the chat related to the business journal idea of convention center, visitor bureau, chamber of commerce. So this is the end of the meeting. We have a short amount of time, and y'all can stick around because we'd like to do something in these meetings if you haven't been on before, where it's just a meeting after the meeting where people can talk about whatever they want to talk about. It doesn't have to be about what we just met on. You're welcome to continue the conversation because this is the group that's here. But if you'd like to just sit around and chat and connect with folks, trade emails, projects, feel free to. But thank y'all for participating, especially to Leigh, Terri, and Tony dropped off earlier for presenting. And know that next month, same time, 12:30 on the last Wednesday of the month, we'll have accessibility be the topic of conversation. So if you have any suggestions on that, feel free to shoot them our way. And we will post these to the PAPI newsletter, which I'll put in the chat shortly. But feel free to keep talking about whatever you'd like, and we can keep the meeting room open for those that want to connect more with each other while we're here.
Hey, Matt, I do have a question.
Sure.
And this may be answered in the plan. I have not looked thoroughly at the plan, but as it relates specifically to Kansas City, have we already looked at where we are? Like, do we have some data that tells us how healthy we are by demographic and age group and location? Do we kind of know what we're challenged with as a community?
We do have the Kansas City report card, KCPA plan report card. I'll put a link to that in the chat. It is a assessment that's part of what the KCPA plan was organized around to kind of, I think what Leigh demonstrated so well earlier was for knowing where we are with our data is important to measure our progress. So there is a Kansas City Physical Activity Plan report card. The question you're asking, though, does it get to specific demographics? I don't think it does nearly as well as it might in the future. It really grades out the different sectors and how we're doing there. There are some demographic points, I believe, in that. It's been a while since I've looked at it. I used to look at it all the time. So, but I think you're asking very specific questions that, when that, the intent is that would be re-upped every, I think, 3 years. And Shelley Summers on the call, she can speak more to it. But we could introduce more criteria to say where are we at in maybe different aspects of it, not just on sector, but based on population. But there is some of that in the KCPA plan report card. So if you're looking for the question of where we're at, that's the best resource I think that's out there for this.
Thank you.
Keisha, I'm glad you joined us.
Yes, yes. I totally forgot about it and was like, oh, crap.
You became our fourth presenter.
So I had to join. Terri, let me go ahead and give you my email address.
Okay.
If you want to connect, it's KECHIA